All 150 people died before they hit the ground. The co-pilot made sure of that. March 24, 2015. Germanwings Flight 9525 is cruising at 38,000 feet over France. Captain Patrick Sondenheimer leaves the cockpit to use the bathroom. It's a routine moment on a routine flight from Barcelona to Dusseldorf. He closes the door behind him. That door will never open again. Co-pilot Andreas Lubitz is now alone. He has 8 minutes. He reaches forward and does something unthinkable. He sets the altitude selector to 100 feet. The autopilot begins a controlled descent toward the Alps below. Then Lubitz does something even worse. He locks the cockpit door from the inside. There's a keypad outside that normally overrides the lock. But Lubitz holds down the denial button. Nobody can get in now. The captain returns. He knocks. No response. He knocks harder. He can see on the security camera that Lubitz is sitting calmly at the controls. He starts pounding on the door. Passengers hear the banging. They don't know what it means yet. The plane descends at 3,400 feet per minute. Lubitz says nothing. His breathing is steady and normal on the cockpit voice recorder. He's awake. He's aware. He's committed. Andreas Günther Lubitz grew up in a small German town called Montabaur. Born December 18, 1987. He wanted to be a pilot since childhood. His bedroom walls were covered with aviation posters. He joined a local glider club at age 14. He was good. Focused. Obsessed even. By 2008 he enrolled in Lufthansa's pilot training program. It's one of the most prestigious in the world. Only the best get in. But in 2009 something happened. Lubitz took a several-month break from training. Lufthansa's records show he had a severe depressive episode. He was hospitalized. He received psychiatric treatment. The details were kept confidential under German medical privacy laws. Here's the critical part. When he returned to training, he was cleared to fly. His medical certificate was marked with a special note requiring regular psychological assessment. But that note was only visible to German aviation authorities. Not to airlines. Not to Germanwings. In 2013 Lubitz got his commercial pilot license. Germanwings hired him. He flew 919 hours without incident. Passengers trusted him with their lives 630 times. But Lubitz never stopped struggling. In the months before the crash, he visited over 40 doctors. He complained of vision problems. He feared he was going blind. Multiple doctors found nothing physically wrong. Several suspected psychosomatic symptoms. At least 2 doctors diagnosed him with severe depression and anxiety. One doctor specifically noted suicidal tendencies. Another wrote that Lubitz was unfit to fly. These notes were written on sick leave certificates. Lubitz tore them up. He never showed them to Germanwings. Under German law, doctors couldn't break confidentiality to warn the airline. 2 weeks before the crash, Lubitz researched cockpit door security procedures online. He looked up suicide methods. He searched for information about different ways to die. Nobody at Germanwings knew any of this. The plane hit the mountain at 10:41 a.m. local time. Impact speed was 700 kilometers per hour. There was no distress call. No mayday. Nothing. The Airbus A320 disintegrated across a remote alpine slope near the village of Prats-Haute-Bléone. Debris scattered over 2 square kilometers. French investigators arrived within hours. The steep terrain made access brutal. Helicopters ferried teams to the site. What they found was incomprehensible. Wreckage so complete that the largest intact piece was smaller than a car door. But on March 25, search teams located both flight recorders. The cockpit voice recorder was damaged but recoverable. What French investigators heard when they played it back changed everything. They heard the captain leaving the cockpit at 10:29 a.m. They heard the lock engage. They heard the altitude selector being changed. They heard the captain knocking at 10:32 a.m. His knocking turned to pounding. Then shouting. Then an axe hitting the door. They could hear passengers screaming in the background in the final seconds. But from Lubitz? Almost nothing. His breathing stayed calm. Steady. In the last moments before impact, the ground proximity warning system blared. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Lubitz never responded. His only audible words during the entire 8-minute descent were barely detectable. Investigators enhanced the audio. He whispered one thing. Nobody knows exactly what he said. But it wasn't a prayer. It wasn't remorse. On March 26, French prosecutor Brice Robin held a press conference. He revealed the truth. This was deliberate. This was mass murder. Andreas Lubitz wanted to destroy the aircraft. He wanted to die. And he wanted to take 149 people with him. The aviation world was horrified. Pilots are trusted above almost anyone. They go through psychological screening. They have rigorous training. The idea that one could do this was unthinkable. But here was the proof. And the worst part? It had happened before. France's Bureau of Inquiry and Analysis investigated for 2 years. Their final report landed in March 2016. It was 150 pages of systemic failure. Lubitz had been flagged during his initial training in 2009. His depression was documented. His suicidal ideation was documented. But German privacy laws prevented that information from following him. Lufthansa knew he had a medical interruption. They didn't know why. When he was cleared to return, they assumed he was fine. Germanwings inherited him without the full picture. In 2015, Lubitz saw at least 7 doctors in the 5 weeks before the crash. He was doctor shopping, seeking prescriptions, seeking sick notes, seeking someone to tell him what he wanted to hear. On March 10, a psychiatrist in Dusseldorf gave him a sick note recommending he not work. Lubitz ignored it. On March 23, the day before the crash, another doctor gave him another sick note. Lubitz threw it away. His girlfriend later told investigators he had been talking about doing something that would make everyone remember his name. She thought he meant a grand romantic gesture. She was wrong. The BEA report identified multiple failures. German medical confidentiality laws were too strict. Pilots could hide mental illness without consequence. Airlines had no access to detailed medical histories. There was no system to cross-check doctor shopping. And cockpit door security, ironically installed after September 11 to prevent hijackings, made it impossible for the captain to regain control. After Germanwings, the rules changed. Airlines now require 2 people in the cockpit at all times. If a pilot leaves, a flight attendant enters. Medical privacy laws across Europe were revised. Pilots must now disclose more psychological history. Airlines gained limited access to medical flags. But here's what still haunts investigators. Lubitz passed every official evaluation. He showed up to work. He smiled at passengers. He was polite to crew. On the outside, he looked fine. On the inside, he was planning murder. 149 people boarded Flight 9525 that morning. 16 students from Joseph Koenig Gymnasium in Haltern MC, Germany, returning from a school exchange trip. 2 babies. Opera singers. Engineers. Families. They trusted the system. They trusted the airline. They trusted the pilot. That trust was obliterated at 10:41 a.m. in the French Alps. Andreas Lubitz made a choice that defies comprehension. He didn't just kill himself. He weaponized an Airbus A320 and murdered 149 innocent people who had no idea what was happening until the final seconds. Mental illness is real. Depression is brutal. But this wasn't a cry for help. This was calculated mass murder. The searches. The door lock. The steady breathing. He had 8 minutes to change his mind. He never did. Aviation is statistically the safest form of travel. But that safety depends on one thing. Trust. Trust that the person at the controls values life. When that trust breaks, the system collapses. Germanwings Flight 9525 forced the industry to confront an uncomfortable truth. You can engineer out mechanical failure. You can train for emergencies. But you can't always predict the human inside the machine. If this case proves anything, it's that the most dangerous part of any flight isn't the altitude, the weather, or the equipment. It's the mind of the person in control. And sometimes, no amount of screening can see what someone is determined to hide. Which raises one final, chilling question. How many other pilots right now are hiding something the system will never catch until it's too late? Subscribe for a new dark truth every day.